All right, the cocktail party is just around the corner. Georgia and Florida on Saturday, 3:30, as God intended in Jacksonville. And Georgia's going to come into this thing relatively healthy. Only four guys on the injury report for the Dogs. Ethan Barber, which we've known about for some time. Taylor, Kyron Jones. These are guys who are known injuries, and of course, the confirmation of Colby Young being out. Nothing surprising there from Georgia. If anything, it's that their offensive line. It does not have anyone that's questionable or probable or anything like that coming into this week. So it's Wednesday. Let's see what happens on Thursday. But Wednesday is a very good indicator as it relates to where you are coming into the game. Vernell Brown being out for the Gators, he's been very productive for them over the last few games. I mean, the Gators' last two games against A&M and Mississippi State on the 11th and the 18th. Brown, who is one of their freshman receivers and is very good, he had 11 catches for over 150. It was 159 yards. He had a 50-yard reception against State. He had a 31-yard reception against A&M. He will be out. That's what Florida says. And that's going to be a tough one that's going to be tough right now, because this is, Caleb Banks for Florida. He's been out for a long time. He's going to be an NFL guy. But losing Brown on this offense from Florida, that's just struggled this season. 17 points a game. They have not been fun and gun for a long, long time at Florida. And it doesn't look like they're going to have him on Saturday, and that makes it even more difficult, I would say, for Florida to win the game. It's going to be tough to win the game no matter what, but when you start talking about losing one of your best, performers at receiver, it's tough out there right now. But look, Georgia's no stranger to guys being out. Colby Young being out for how long we don't know. I would imagine for possibly the rest of the year. You're talking about losing him, Taylor. That's a lot of guys. Ethan Barber was a starter for Georgia. So you're starting to chop away at Georgia's ability to throw it, or the options that Gunnar Stockton or whoever's playing quarterback has got. It's not ideal. It's not the way that you want to do things. But this is a Georgia team that has been dependent on the run. They're happy to run it. The only team that's really slowed them, I wouldn't even say stopped them, is Auburn. And that's the only team that's outrushed them this season, if my math is correct. And Georgia still won that game 20-10. And I don't know. I think the way that Georgia plays is different than almost everybody in the country. I mean, Texas A&M maybe is like Georgia. Ole Miss is not. Tennessee is not. Ohio State is dependent on their defense. You saw, Ole Miss was exhausted at the end of that game. And so that's what playing the way Georgia plays can do to other teams. And it's going to be challenging on Saturday for the Gators to win this game. Make sure that you're taking advantage of our opportunity that we've got with Sales Hatch. The hardest part of sales today is not closing. It's simply getting the conversation started and landing the first meeting. Business-to-business communication channels are so saturated and noisy that it's tough for founders, business owners, or sales leaders to get the foot in the door. Get your foot in the door. Let Sales Hatch do the hard part. Handle the cold calling, the email campaigns, the direct mail, everything you need to consistently put your partners, put yourself in front of new prospects. That's what you want. Sales Hatch is going to take their partnership with you, and they're going to put you in front of the right people. The goal is simple. Let Sales Hatch deliver 3 to 4 new qualified meetings every week so that you can focus on closing deals. That's an important thing, and we're going to see if the Dogs can close this thing out against Florida. All these games are important. We're at that part of the season right now. A week from now, you're going to be talking about, 6 days from now, you're going to be talking about the first college football playoff rankings. Even if Georgia were to lose this game, they would probably still be in the top 12, but it would be perilous. They couldn't lose any game that they have remaining. Every single game that you've got from here on out is important, not just for qualification for the playoff, but for seeding in the playoff. I don't see right now how Georgia would be a top 4 seed without some chicanery going on in front of them. So, um, but if they don't lose, which I mean, I don't expect them to lose. I mean, the math of all of this is if you are, looking at a 5-game stretch, the likelihood of you running the table of all 5 is low. But when you look at it game by game, Georgia's not going to be an underdog in any of these games moving forward, including the Tech game. I mean, they'll probably be anywhere from an 8 to 11 point favorite over Georgia Tech in Atlanta at the Dome. It might be slightly higher considering slightly higher considering that facility will be a road game for Georgia Tech. So there's something to be said for that. But Florida, you got to go on the road to Mississippi State. You've got Texas, who has the ability, but has just not played well. And now we don't know about Arch moving forward. It's I mean, I anticipate Arch playing against Georgia. He's listed as questionable against Vanderbilt. Once look, I had 2 concussions when I was younger. You want to limit those as much as possible. This is a physical game. That is not an ideal situation. You're talking about long-term health for people. So concussions are a very serious thing. But we don't Texas going to Athens. It's going to be a challenging game for the Longhorns too, and they're just not playing well. So Georgia should go handle business this week. Frankly, they should handle business the rest of the way, but it doesn't always work that way. Like sometimes you get into sort of knife fights. But as it relates to all those things, though, too, Georgia this season, the games that have looked difficult, they basically have been difficult. The games that maybe not so difficult, they've not been so difficult. So it's been similar. It's been similar to what you would expect, is what I would say. I mean, the Tennessee game was always going to be hard. Going to Auburn, that was always going to be hard. I mean, they sort of, in terms of score, outperformed what they won the Auburn game by 10. The Mississippi game, they outperformed there, but that was, I mean, the score was not indicative of how much of a fight the Ole Miss game was. I mean, Georgia, I'll just say that if Georgia got the ball back, they were going to score again. I don't know if it would have been a touchdown or a field goal, but they would have, scored. They would have had an opportunity to score. Mississippi was exhausted, so that's what Georgia can do to you. And Ole Miss almost didn't stop them from scoring the whole night. So this Florida team, I don't know where they're at coming into this thing. Again, not having a really good playmaking wide receiver who has been not just a playmaker, but just been productive. 11 catches over the last 2 games. I mean, that's a lot of balls that he's catching. That's a quarter of the receptions. It's more than a quarter of the receptions that Florida's had in the last 2 games. And that's going to be not so easy to replace. So I don't know. I think for Georgia that you have Gaston in good shape, that you have Green in good shape, that's something to, it's been 2 weeks for both these teams. And for Georgia wanting to get healthy, trying to get healthy for what is going to be it's possible, I talk about the stretch run. One reason why November is difficult is because you've already played, September, October, and they one game in August. That's the hard part, is you've already accumulated 7 games worth of wear and tear. But look, the reality is too that Georgia, it's challenging for me to say, oh, this Georgia team is going to have a harder time these next 5 games than they did the previous 7. I don't know. I can't really say that. I mean, they played 5 SEC games already. They've got 3 that remain. You got Tech. No, I'm not. I mean, I'm just saying with the SEC games, you're more than halfway through. Georgia, I think, is the only SEC team that has played as many SEC conference games as they have so far this season. At least it was coming into this weekend. Yeah, they were a week ahead of everybody. Like, the off week caught Ole Miss, Alabama, and Texas A&M up to Georgia. Same thing with Tennessee and LSU. Carolina has now played 6 of their games, and that is not going well. I mean, I don't know. I don't know if South Carolina wins another game in the league. That is a situation. And look, Florida at the end of the season here, there's a lot left to play for if you're Florida. I mean, you've got Georgia, they've got Kentucky, they've got Ole Miss, they've got Tennessee, they got Florida State. They could lose all those games, but they can win a couple of them too. Florida State's bad, so Kentucky is bad. So, you've got an opportunity there with Ole Miss and Tennessee and Georgia to like really show what you've got. But it will be challenging for this Florida team to win against this Georgia team the way it's structured. If they both go in there and play their basic games, Georgia will win this game by 10, I would imagine. If it's, dicey with turnovers or, trick plays, are plays though. So it's got to be something where you're scoring on special teams or, a season ago, Florida was really hanging in there, and then they had a complete disaster on special teams, and Georgia just never looked back. So, can they do that again? I personally think that not having Billy out there, Napier, I think that kind of hurts Florida for this game. In the long term, it helps them. But in this particular game and situation, I do think that that's something that you would prefer to have. But we're at where we're at. The Gators are kind of banged up. Georgia looking halfway healthy heading into this game in Jacksonville. Thanks for watching.